Evening, everyone. Next generation meteorologist Joe Shock here with the tropical update and more or less talking about the storm that I think will be occurring. And for some reason, my autoplay on my PowerPoint continues to play when I am not ready to move on to the next slide. That is interesting. I'll have to see what I have turned on there in PowerPoint. That keeps happening to me every time I begin one of these videos. But anyway, yes, we'll take a look at our tropical update and mainly focus on the storm threat for the middle part of next week for the northeastern part of the United States, which will bring some very beneficial rain to the region that is in moderate, severe, and now extreme drought, especially in southeastern New England, in the latest drought monitor that came out last Thursday. So we'll take a look at that and see the overall large-scale pattern on how this, I think, is going to unfold. However, the 18Z GFS, my friend David just texted me saying that the 18Z GFS, operationally at least, has canceled the storm. So we'll see about that. I'm not too concerned at the moment. So anyway, here's the European MJO over the next 2 weeks. And you can see mainly in the null phase trying to come out into those phases, hyperactive phases, phase 2, 3, possibly 4. But a lot of the ensemble members still holding this into null phase. So I'm getting kind of worried about the hurricane season not unfolding the way I thought it was going to. And I think a lot of people thought how it's going to unfold. Here's the JMA, less amplitude, I guess, into phase 2 from where it was over the last couple of days, but still closer into phase 1 and 2 than the GFS and the European. So for this feature off the East Coast next week, it is going to be a not so driven MJO, but there might be some enhancements from the MJO that might help in the initiation of this process. So there's phase 2 of the MJO. If we do slide in there for a few days, middle of next week, you can see the enhancement off the mid-Atlantic and northeastern part of the United States. Now, of course, the water temperatures themselves, here are the anomalies. They are quite warm relative to normal. 2, 3 C above normal up here, as I have a little bit of water myself here in my office, but you can overall see 2, 3 C above normal, and even parts of the Gulf of Maine upwards of 5 C above normal. So very, very warm water here along the East Coast. And also we're warming up nicely the MDR now, so maybe as we get towards the tail end of the month of August and begin September, we will be able to flip this around and see some more activity. Also, look at this warming here and the ENSO 1.2, and you can see here some warming going on here and still cool in ENSO 3 and 3.4, but there is some warming here in the eastern Pacific, which is interesting. Given the overall pattern that we might be going into during the winter. But that's a video for another day. But overall, you can see plenty of energy along the East Coast for this kind of mischief to happen. Now, actual ocean temperatures look like this. You can still see the shadings of red here. Roughly, I'll trace it with my mouse here, 26 Celsius, 80 Fahrenheit, right through here. And, of course, heading off to the east-northeast after that. But you can see mainly focused here just south of New England where this is going to get going, just north of the Gulf Stream. We have water temperatures between 80 and 82, 83 degrees, so plenty of warm water for this to try to become warm core. We'll discuss that more in the large-scale synoptic pattern. So you can see the upward motion here from the JMA. You can see that little bit of enhancement along the East Coast. You can see how it's nicely hinting at the enhanced precipitation. Now here's this whole troughing situation, how this is going to happen, and you'll see it in more detail on the European in a second, but you can overall see days 3 through 9 that troughing over the eastern part of the United States. So there's the 12Z GFS. Here is the 850 temperature. You can see how it definitely has that semi-warm core developing. Still, this is not a purely tropical cyclone, but it certainly does have a little bit more of a warm core than the European does. And also a very nice low-level jet out of the easterly winds here of 55, 60 knots over southern New England, even some 60, I guess 55, 60 knot wind barbs here, but 50 to 60 knot wind barbs here over southern New England. There's a 60 knot bar right there just around Manchester, 55. But you can see quite a strong easterly fetch of wind coming off the Mass Bay with this kind of a situation. This will pivot northwest as it gets phased in with this large trough. And this is how this is going to pretty much get going synoptically. Is there's going to be, and here it is right here. There's a large trough that's coming down over the eastern part of the United States, and there's some energy that's currently off the southeast coast, which will propagate northward and then begin to feed back over that warm water. And having this trough and this cooler air at 500 millibars can help enhance the instability to make this a little bit more of a convective hybrid system than if it were, developing itself solo without, cooler air aloft, helping to create, again, more instability in the atmosphere to help the convective processes go on. Again, however, though, this is going to be short notice. We don't have a lot of time for this thing to really get itself established in the atmosphere, so that is why it doesn't have a huge probability of becoming a purely tropical cyclone. Just, again, the time that it has and the environment, the large-scale environment synoptically that it's working in is not fully conductive for, purely tropical development. Certainly, there will be some characteristics of tropical storm within this thing, I do believe. And again, 40, 50 mile per hour wind gusts along the coast, pretty likely at the moment, given everything that I see. Now, here's the GFS ensemble. You can see the spread and intensities there on the models. The European, a little bit further east, a few millibars weaker. You can see what it looks like there operationally. And you can see less of a warm core, closed up, but still somewhat, it's a hybrid kind of look. And also the winds at 850 not as strong as what you saw there on the GFS when you had the GFS cranking out 50, 55, 60 knot winds at 850, while the GFS is half of that, 25 to 35 knots respectively over southern New England with this feature, at least at this time of valid early Thursday morning. So we'll see how the evolution of this goes over the next couple of days, but certainly has gotten my interest for obvious reasons. And again, there's the European ensemble spread with its low locations and intensities. So pretty impressive looking. Again, same thing synoptically with this cutoff trough coming down and being, over this large scale ridging that's over in, much of Canada. So this is a pretty much classic ridge over troubled water. However, it's occurring further north with a cutoff low rather than something developing in the deep tropics. But nevertheless, hopefully bring some beneficial rain to New England later on this week. And then finally, as we wrap up here, the extreme forecast index from the European, and you can see that the threat of some strong wind gusts is showing up here in the EFI index. Here, values roughly of 0.6, 0.7, even some 0.7 to 0.8 here off the coast. So certainly an interesting couple of days to watch this and see what happens with the evolution of this in the model fields. That's it for now, and thank you for watching.